Hello, everyone, and welcome into MVP Sports. We hope you're having a wonderful day on this beautiful Monday. I am your host, Soapy Muffins. I'm joined today by the wonderful Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, how's your day going? You enjoying your day so far?
Oop, sucks a lot of dick today. That is part
Well,
of life. You take the good, you take the bad.
I mean, yeah, that tends to happen in life. So sometimes you just gotta accept it sometimes.
Yep. Yep. Very true.
But we have a wonderful show for you guys today. First, before we get into any of that, we're going to get into the housekeeping. Want to join one of the best communities on the internet? Well, it's available. You can go to Twitch, go into the Twitch chat, go type in exclamation Discord. A link will pop up, or check the description of YouTube for the link. I don't know why my brain is just all of a sudden being like, oh yeah, we talking now. If you want to support us at a monetary value, you are able to at patreon.com/MVPvids. There we have 4 tiers you can choose from: bronze, silver, gold, and platinum, each one providing its own benefit above the other. For instance, if you choose platinum, you get to be able to be shouted out in a video like our Patreon supporter, Pat Hill. We appreciate you, Pat, and we love you.
Thank you, Pat.
If you want to check out the videos after we're gone live on YouTube, or after if I could speak English, after we've gone live on Twitch, go to youtube.com/MVP Sports. There, podcast will be uploaded if you are not able to make it live on Twitch. So, Dave, getting into the first topic, we're talking about your favorite team in the NBA, Dave.
Absolutely are.
You know, the boys in green, the Celtics.
Yeah.
They've been playing pretty good of recently, Dave. Their last
Yeah.
game, they beat a pretty good team. Are the Celtics back?
I mean, we just talked about the way they won that game was just smothering defense in the fourth quarter. It was impressive. Honestly, I want to say yes. I do just outright like the Celtics teams had a lot of struggles this season. Notably, multiple players. I think they lead the league in most time out, like players time away from the team due to COVID situations. Which completely out of their hands is just really unfortunate. That's how it is sometimes. But I think that Jason Tatum getting COVID really knocked his season off course because he was off to a very hot start, got COVID. Obviously, even though he was cleared to play, his body wasn't actually recovered all the way. It took him a while to get over everything going on. So now he's back to being an elite wing. He's back to that, is he top 10, top 15 player in the NBA kind of level. So if he can keep that up all the way through the end of the year and into the playoffs, like they're in really good shape because the less they have to rely on Kemba Walker, the better this team is moving forward.
Yeah, and on top of that as well, I really do think it was the multiple people missing COVID that really threw this team off because it felt like multiple times this year they swapped identities. They couldn't seem to figure out, are we still the Celtics team from like 2 to 3 years ago that made it to the Eastern Conference Finals? Are we still that team? They couldn't really seem to put that together. And I think that fell apart massively because you didn't have the figurehead of your team of Jason Tatum there. I think as well on top of that, with Jaylen Brown kind of emerging now,
Yeah.
It didn't seem at first of like, oh, it wouldn't be that big of a gap. But once you lose someone with the offensive ability of Tatum, like Brown is a fantastic player.
Oh,
And there
yeah.
is a legitimate argument I think you could make now of like, is Jaylen Brown better than Jason Tatum? I think that's a legitimate argument that should be a thing. And I think as well, on top of that, now starts the conversation of, okay, can these two lead you to wins? Obviously, their last 10, I believe there's 7.
7
There's
and 3.
7. Yeah. Oh, they've started popping off again. And I want to ask a question as well, because did you pay attention to the Nuggets game? Like, did you watch most of the way through?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I watched, there were some interesting ref situations not being involved. Jason Tatum's got quick feet. I'll put it that way. He may have stepped out of bounds on an inbound play. Or not on the inbound play, intercepting the ball. He stepped on the baseline, but he slid back his foot just so quickly that the ref, whose job is to stare at that line, somehow missed it. Which basically caused Jokic to have a mental boom, and he was done after that. So no, it was a good game. But the way they changed their defense up to completely shut them down in the fourth quarter was insane. Like that was the most impressive part of that game, was just how well they were able to like turn it up when they needed it.
Yeah, and as well, I remember I was watching a video earlier, and I believe it was like someone just scrolling through Reddit, and they were talking about how there were times that I may get his name right. It's Grant Williams, right? If I remember correctly.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Former
Grant
Tennessee
Williams did
Vol.
Grant Williams did a really good job guarding Jokic. Like that was the weird thing. Like obviously, Grant Williams is kind of one of those background guys. Like he's on the team, but like he's just kind of there. And watching that play, I was like, it looks like this team had Jokic really well scouted, especially with the fact of they didn't make the mistake a lot of teams seem to make when guarding Jokic of having this mentality of, oh, you have to double him, you have to. It's like, no, Jokic is arguably the best passing big man we have ever seen. Yeah. You do not, in any way, shape, or form, when he has 4 people on the outside who can hit the 3, you don't leave any of them open, especially when you have someone like Michael Porter Jr. waiting there. Yeah. That is the last man you want. That man showed why he should not have fell. No injured problems or not. And with that, I think that really kind of showed like this team, while they may not be able to match up against someone like Embiid, the problem is there is almost no team who can match up against Embiid. So I think with them, I almost think they need to kind of take that mentality of like, okay, how do we utilize the defenders we have? Because Williams isn't a bad defender. Smart's a really good defender. Brown's a good defender. Tatum at times is good. Sometimes it's not. Kind of depends on how involved in the game he is. Yeah. I almost wonder if this could be one of those teams of like, we don't have that guy who stops them at the rim. We just have it of like, okay, fuck it. Your center will drop 30. No one else your team's dropping 10.
Well, I mean, if the Time Lord is playing as well as he has been, he's a very capable rim protector. Now, capable rim protector, like you said, Embiid, doesn't really matter. That's just Joel Embiid's going to get his. It doesn't really get into the fact of things. So I want to agree with that one exception. But I think that, like, yes, this team's identity is their defense. That is exactly what it was. Marcus Smart was the heart of this team. And again, a player who they missed for a good chunk of the season. So between injuries, COVID, everybody missing time, like they've been exposed as a team that doesn't have a bench. They have no depth somehow. After all their draft picks, after everything they've done, they were just so barren on the bench and they didn't have quality players there. So, it was nice to see the idea of going and getting Fournier. Even though I didn't like the idea of it, I was like, well, they should have gone and got AG. They should have done this. They should have. And they end up with Fournier, not the best player, but he is at least someone who they should be able to count on once he gets locked in. I just think the rest of this bench is so unproven. I mean, Peyton Pritchard has been good for where he was selected at, but at the same time, like he's not someone who should be expected on to carry a team heavy mids in the playoffs kind of thing. We're finally starting to see that Romeo Langford is a real human being who exists. He's tangible. I've seen him check in and out of games. He's made a bucket, so we can't ignore that anymore. But again, literal kids out there compared to the rest of the NBA. So the minutes in the NBA these guys have had is so limited because of a number of situations, whether it is injuries in Romeo's case or the decisions of the coaching team to force him through minutes in the G League rather than play him up on a team where they're competing at the same time. Like, they've had to deal with this and they just can't seem to solidify that second unit. And I think that's one of the big downfalls. But again, playoffs ramp up, minutes for the bench go down, but at the same time, they're also magnified. Those rotations become so much more critical to get right. And I think that's an area where I still haven't found Brad Stevens to have an answer. You see this team go through strides of the game where they just don't have guys who can get it done on offense and they just have no plan. It's like ISO ball, and I don't know, that's not their identity. Their identity, obviously, in my mind, is still defense and trying to work with the two J's, let one of them ISO, let one of them create, and just go from there. But yeah, I think this team is only going to go as far as those two guys can take them. Like, they just don't have the depth. They don't have the creators on the outside. So I'm happy to see success, but at the same time, I'm limiting my expectations in the East because how dominant the top teams are.
Oh yeah, and obviously, like you said, the top teams in the East are so dominant that I just kind of view it as like this year of just try to prove you can make it competitive with them. Like, obviously, I don't expect the Celtics to make it deep. I think maybe the farthest, and obviously depends on where they finish in the seeding, is maybe the second round. And I don't want to be a person who is down is down on the Celtics because I think it was last year I had them making the Eastern Conference Finals. I think
Probably.
so. Yeah. And obviously, I was wrong, but I think I think this is a team that once they get their mentality together and they seem to be kind of reforming that bond a little bit, like it doesn't seem like obviously once they lost, we kept hearing all the stuff of like the players don't like Brad Stevens, they don't respect him. We saw the videos of like Marcus Smart in the back yelling in the locker room.
Yeah.
And like you hear that and they're like obviously, that's still probably going on, but like it doesn't seem to be happening as often. And I almost feel like it's kind of that locker room is kind of getting back together because now you're not in a situation of, okay, we're coming off of like obviously some people may consider it, a down year by not making it as far as they did before.
I mean,
but
should they have been in the NBA Finals? Perhaps some people were saying they should have, but shit happens.
I mean, yeah, and I think this team is one that I think once they get it back together, obviously barring any injuries, because obviously I believe on this road trip they don't have Fournier.
Yeah, he is out again.
Yeah, and obviously, seeing how this bench unit is going to work without Fournier is going to be interesting to see. Because obviously, like you pointed out, they don't really have any depth on this team. I really think we may start to see Grant Williams get a lot of minutes, especially with how we saw him defend Jokic. Granted, do I want Grant Williams guarding the best player in the court every possession? No. He is probably not the player I want doing that. But at the same time, it's, if he can at least stand out as like a defender on this team, it's like, okay, if we're staggering minutes.
Really good run in the playoffs, actually, defensively. Like, I think that he got a couple starts on. He was I want to say their starting five or their finishing five at some point. So, like, I do think he has the skill set to do it. Like, the problem is his just offensive game is like totally not a match for this team. So he might be out there, but then how do you make him not a negative on the other side of the court?
Yeah, I almost kind of view it as, and this will just be my last thought on this as well. I almost kind of view him almost as like an Andre Roberson-esque player, not to the level like defensively as Roberson, because with Roberson, boy, when he guards your player, he's guarding them, but damn well on offense he may as well just stay on the other side of the court.
Yeah, I mean he got blanketed. I mean Grant's not that bad, okay, but yeah.
I'm saying like kind of that esque though of like he's not like an offensive threat of where it's like we have to make sure we defend him. If it's like because random kind of side tangent a little bit. Did you see the clip of when it was Wizards Warriors and Draymond shot the corner three and Beal turned around, saw it was him, and just turned right back around? Yeah. That's kind of almost the vibe I get with Grant Williams sometimes of like they're just like, fuck it, let him.
He's like if Zion Williamson lost all his athleticism. That's Grant Williams. I mean, he's a 6'6" power forward with, a little bit of ability to facilitate sometimes. He not someone you should count on, but he might surprise you with his passing ability from time to time. But he's a good defender, so he's got that going for him. But I mean, just 6'6" power forward. You're asking a lot out of this guy with matchups, and I mean, I'm always excited because I think again, Tennessee, known for his great defense, he was the ultimate glue guy, and why they were so successful when he was in college. And again, I think he showed out during the playoffs. So I think that the expectation should be, he's there. But really, for me, it's Robert Williams. Like, this is the guy. This is the time Lord itself. Like, you have to show up now. The entire team needs him because TT is dead. Like, in my mind, Tristan Thompson is toast. He is not worth the minutes. I expect him to be phased down more. I think that Robert Williams probably continue to average close to 30. And I'm hoping Grant Williams will fill in the rest of those minutes. TT maybe 5 minutes, maybe like 3 minutes. Just he's not helping your team win games. In my mind, Celtics fans tell me I'm wrong, but I don't see you guys better with him on the court. So I really want to see the focus there. Obviously, the big elephant in the room here is Kemba Walker, though. And Kemba's degenerate knees, his injuries, his injury history, everything around Kemba Walker and this team. Are they at his mercy or his health mercy to make it through the playoffs? Like, can you see this team winning games without Kemba Walker come playoff time?
See, Kemba's the weird one. And I think it's because he hasn't adjusted. And it sounds weird because obviously he's been on this team for a couple of years now. it feels like he hasn't left that type of mentality he had in Charlotte of like, this is my team. It feels like he hasn't lost that. And there
Mhm.
are times like when he takes certain shots, it's just like, what the hell are you doing? You have two players who are miles better than you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like you should be like the third option. You should not be the guy of like, oh, I'm gonna bring this ball up, dribble it like for 15 seconds, and then I'm
Bounce
just gonna go to
all
the
the way
basket.
around.
It's like why? It's like why are you doing that? I get it. You used to be that guy.
Yeah.
And I get it. It's hard for people to accept that. We saw a similar thing with Melo of like Melo went to a different team and tried to be old Melo and it sucked.
Yep.
I feel Kemba's kind of going down that route and like I hope Kemba can find his route because I don't hate him. Obviously, he's not my favorite player in the NBA by any stretch of the imagination, but at the same time, I don't hate him enough to the point of it's like fuck you, I don't want to see you win anything. It's more
I
of a
mean,
like okay. It, I mean, to be fair, yeah, it's a one of us here is not a Kemba Walker fan.
yeah. No, I'm not a Kemba fan because I shouldn't be because he's just honestly disappointing. I literally just tabbed over to Twitch again and saw that we got rated. Thank you, Poppy Solo. I think
Hey,
that's definitely not the first time you brought in your group here. Nets and four, big old fucking group. Opinion on Celtics imploding post Kyrie. I 100% agree that there's definitely a conversation we had around the fact that they had Kyrie Irving on this team and they went a different route because they couldn't handle his personality. And I think that you're seeing something very similar. Um, it's just don't think that Brad Stevens is the best coach, but I don't know if there's a better coach out there. That's the problem. Like you might want to get rid of him, but I don't know who's better available or better equipped to coach these kids. That is the problem. So if you know somebody, love to hear it, but I don't know. Literally don't. Not a fucking chance. So I would
yeah,
be incredibly surprised if Brad Stevens got replaced out of there.
yeah, I think Brad Stevens' job is basically secured, unless if they are just like, you know what, we have to change this. Something needs to change because they're not going to fire Ainge. Because Ainge will just ride that Nets trade for the rest of eternity of like, listen, I got us Tatum, I got us Brown. What else I got to do?
Can't do anything else for you. I almost got you everybody. Almost.
True. Yeah, I try my hardest every offseason. But Dave, moving into the next topic, talking about a little bit of a most improved player. Now, most people kind of have, two players about solidified as, the two highest contenders for it. New York Knicks, Julius Randle, and my favorite team, the Detroit Pistons, Jeremy Grant.
Mhm.
Dave, do you think there's anyone else really in the running for this award?
He think you got to look number one at the MVP of the year, Nikola Jokic. I mean, he is just coming off of that game we just talked about where he got a little, mental boomed by the refs, and that's been the constant story of the year. And I think that's why he's getting a little bit of hate right now because Jokic and the refs don't get along. They don't give him calls, and he would have gaudier numbers if he did. But even without those numbers, he's still massively just the best offensive weapon in the NBA as far as running an offense through one single guy. Like he is the centerpiece of all of that. The Nuggets are an incredible team. Numbers across the board. His shooting way up. His scoring's up. His facilitation is right where it needs to be. Clean with the turnover game. Like he's doing everything. And even his defense has gotten better. So like I think people who want to overlook him are maybe going too far because I think that he has done everything that you want for a most improved player. Like he has taken a massive leap forward. He went from a kind of name that people knew he was good, but they were like, but like they're not winning anything kind of thing to like, no, they're one of the best teams in the West and the best team, honestly, with a chance to slow down the Nets in my mind. So I'm really excited about the idea of bringing him into that conversation because we did kind of have this in the past with Giannis Antetokounmpo. So can a player win MVP and MIP in the same year? It would be pretty unheard of. But at the same time, the stat jumps kind of do validate that he should be in the conversation.
Oh yeah, I definitely think he should be up there as well. Obviously, originally I just stuck with the two that everyone's been saying all year of of Randall, and the main reason I was going to say it with Randall is because the fact of I think without him on this Knicks team, I don't think this team would be anywhere near as good. And obviously, my homerism with Jeremy Grant, but it's also he went from like we knew him as the role guy. He was
Mm-hmm.
going to do this. This is all he was going to provide. And obviously, he gets a little bit of a boost from being on a pretty bad team. some may say the second worst team in the league. Who knows? Some may even say worst.
Yeah.
We're up there at least. But and obviously I'm trying not to just make it that I'm like, oh, Jeremy Grant because I'm a
Give
homer.
me some reasons why, okay? Because the obvious argument here is he's the same player he was before. All he is more volume now. Like his game hasn't changed too much, and the numbers say that hey, he's shooting the same, if not a little worse efficiency. Is he really improved, or is this just a good player who got an opportunity on a bad team?
Yeah, and I think that's just the main thing with it. Obviously, like I said, I'm trying not to just be a homer with Jeremy Grant, but like it's the more you look at it, it almost feels like he's like the faux member of this group. And
What do you mean by faux member?
Like essentially, like you said, he's just getting more attempts because he essentially doubled his shot attempts. He went from averaging about 5.5 shots a game last year to now averaging 11. And the thing is, I'm pretty sure he's averaging less in almost every category than Jokic and Randall.
I
Obviously,
got
I'm
very
going to
different
double.
numbers than you. I'm sorry. I see him. He was at 8.9
I mean,
field goal attempts last year and
okay, yeah, I think
17.3
I'm
this
looking at the
year.
wrong thing. Yeah, I'm
Um,
looking at the wrong thing.
yeah, he doubled his attempts still, and again, his points 12 to 22. But like, it's pretty linear, and I get it. He goes from having Jokic setting him up to being his own creator because the Pistons literally didn't have a point guard for 90% of the year. So to have similar efficiency probably deserves some credit, but obviously it dipped because he's his own point guard now, basically too. So he's got to create, he's got a ball handle, he's got to create for others too. I think he's done a decent enough job with it, but I don't know that I see him as an improved player because it seems like he was this player just given the keys to the franchise now.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I said like I kind of view him as like the faux member of it. Of where obviously I wanted to win it because he's on my team. I want to be like, what, we won something.
Yeah.
Obviously I'll take pride in Sadiq Bey being a top 5 rookie. I'll stick with it. But obviously I'd like to see an award winner on this team. It's been quite some time.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, but I think he's the one that kind of on the outside looking in of like you said, he hasn't really been that much of a different player. Like obviously, yes, he scores more, but like it's also his defense kind of regressed a little bit. I kind of feel he's taking sort of like the Bradley Beal approach a little bit of like the who needs defense and I'll just try to outscore you. Obviously, he's not anywhere near as good as Beal because Beal can kind of get away with doing that at times.
Yeah.
Of like Beal could be like, hey, I can drop 50, but the rest of my team's not good. So obviously, I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, there was the stat of like Beal hasn't won a single game when he's dropped 50 or something like that.
I mean, that just seems believable. For whatever reason, I don't even have to look at it. But I'm like, if you told me Beal hasn't won a game, he scored 50, and I'd be like, yeah, I mean, that's the Wizards' last 3 years. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of why Jeremy Grant falls into that position for me. I think with Randall, it more or less falls into the fact of the reason why I think he has a really strong chance of winning it is because his impact on the Knicks is really impressive. Like obviously he plays, I think he's definitely top 5 in minutes per game.
2 or 1 or yeah, he's top 5. But I think he's either like number 2 or 1. He's over 37 minutes a game. So like in order to kind of balance those numbers down, I do kind of check the per 100, per 36 to try to get a better idea because Jokic is only playing about a minute and a half less than him. But if you look at some of the other guys out there, like Christian Wood, someone who former Piston, a lot of people have in their top 5 for most improved player.
Come on, man. I was gonna say, come on, man. Don't rub it in.
Christian Wood's only playing 31 minutes a night. So like if you look at his numbers per 36 and where he jumped from last year, the end of last year, you got that small sample size of the 12 games he started at the end of the season where he was an absolute stud. But you have the season average. So like he literally went from, like 13 points to 21 points. But then if you balance that out to his per 36, like he's at that elite level, You do have to consider him in the conversation as well. And I hate to do that to you because I know he's your former guy. He is your former guy, man.
It pains me. Obviously, I still have the belief he wouldn't have come back. Like, we would have had to overpay him especially because he kept making tweets throughout the season as well, like I want to be a winner, and obviously Pistons they're like, don't worry, you'll make us a winner. We all knew damn well that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
But we're all like, don't worry, man, we're behind you. We gave you the chance and you ran with it. And then we're just like, hey, you want $8 million a year? And he's like, hey, the Rockets are offering me like 16. They're doubling it. And we're like, no.
Yep.
And he goes off, and obviously before he got hurt, looked like an absolute stud, which was terrifying.
He looks great. But that's the thing. He seems
picked
to
up right where he left off.
I mean, the Rockets still suck as a team, but he's playing really well. The only other guy having the outside who you gotta give a shout out to is Lou Dort. I mean, dude is just all hustle, incredible defense, but now the offensive game has been added to his game a little bit now. He's still not got the cleanest splits in the game, but he is someone who looks like he'll be, the Avery Bradley of the next, decade kind of thing. Like I think he'll work his way up. Maybe Marcus Smart, better complement, but like I do see more Avery Bradley play style. But that 3-point shot, like he's not afraid. He's not good at it, but he's not afraid. So I think he's someone who, if you're just looking at raw numbers and a player taking that next step, it's just a question of like, can you give it to a young player like that who's in his second season? Notoriously, we've seen the MIP not go to second-year players. Goes to guys a little bit further in their career who've taken that big step. So like, I almost like want to asterisk that one and be like, well, is that an expected jump for a rookie? But he's not a normal rookie either for last year. So like, I don't know. Just want to add that name.
Yeah, I think he could be a player that he gets looked at, but like you said, kind of gets that, like he's supposed to be getting better by this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he could be a player that gets kind of a look, but just kind of, that's it, just a look.
Sure.
I think a player, and obviously I'm not too familiar on how long they've been in the league for. I think Norman Powell could at least get, I think he could at least get like a nod. Not like a solidified yet this year but sort of a glance, just like a okay, yeah, like you've stepped it up this year, especially I believe since All-Star break, he's been just an absolute monster.
Yeah, he's a bit of a flamethrower at times, but I mean, like the problem is the jump isn't massive because last year he got such a big run with that team. He was so important to that Toronto team. Like, I think his numbers, honestly, like I know they're not worse, but I'm like, I think they're pretty similar. I think he just got, slightly more efficient, which he was already an efficient shooter. So kudos to him. But I mean, yeah, he's one of those players having a great season, but I don't know if there's like a massive improvement because like when we're just talking about like shooting statistic and efficiency improvements, like you could throw in a Zach LaVine, someone who's having like a career year, if not one that is like incredible. Like it's on the next level as far as how efficient he is with what he's doing out there and what's around him, which makes it even more special. So like, I feel like those numbers, like any advanced numbers, almost get thrown out the window when you talk MIP. Like this is a award very much like Rookie of the Year, where people just go like, well, he went from 12 to 18, or he went from this to that. And like, clearly, I mean, come on, guys, let's not think about this too hard. It seems to be the media narrative out there for this award.
Yeah, and as well, kind of with that, and with some of the previous winners we've seen, typically it's players who are kind of entering, I don't want to say late, but like they're kind of like mid-20s. They've like they're probably on their second deal, maybe near the end of their second deal. And that's kind of where they start to look into that range. You have any other players that you would consider for it? Because I'm trying to rack my brain. And like as much as I want to just keep saying like a Bojan, because Bojan plays good, I don't know if he'd get the nod.
No, the only guy is, again, an older player, but, it's just what it is. There's a boy, Rick Bucher, up there in Toronto, or down there in Tampa Bay, technically, right now. This is his technically fourth season in the league, but, his second season of actually getting serious minutes for the Raptors. So, I mean, yes, he's taken a step. Yes, his shooting's really good. I think that he's someone who, right now, a lot of people see as, an outside candidate for even six-man, maybe. Like, Chris Boucher is very good offensively. He's got a good touch. And his numbers do back up the fact that, hey, he's taken a massive leap this year. So I think he's someone who probably will get a couple votes here and there. But I mean, it feels like this contest really comes down to like the Julius Randle, Jeremy Grant thing in my mind. Even though I don't agree with either one of those necessarily, but like Grant's kind of going to run away with it in my mind for the vote. I think that Julius Randle will get the hate because New York media. So, I mean, he should get the rub and the credit because that team is doing incredible. No one expected them to be this good this season. So, and he is the face of that team right now. I think if he wasn't on there, you would mention it. They probably wouldn't be as good, but at the same time, like, would we have seen different moves happen? We joked about them having like 7 power forwards last year. RJ Barrett's taken a step forward this year as well. So, like, I think you got to give him some credit for what's going on the court too.
Yeah. And just one last player I randomly thought of. We had talked about his team earlier. Is there a chance Jaylen Brown gets looked at and gets, because he's emerged this year? Like, as much as I don't like,
it's a breakout year. I'll give you that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think him and Levine would kind of finish near each other in votes. Like, obviously, I know you as a Bulls fan, you may lean one way more than the other. I'm not going to.
Brown's more player. Don't get me wrong. I will never argue with that. Like, Zach LaVine is offensively fucking gifted compared to everyone on this list outside of Jokic. But Jaylen Brown is a two-way stud. His defense incredible. He does a lot of things well, but it feels, I don't want to say this, but like, he took that jump last year. He went, basically from a role player to I'm, one of the co-leaders of this team. And now when no one expected him to get better, he just got better. Like, his shooting got better. His defense got better. Offensively, he's being counted on to do more because they have no depth in that position. So, like, he's being asked to do more and he's thriving. So I agree with you. I think he's becoming, he's not a leader of the team, not a vocal leader, but I think he is one of the guys, like we talked about in the first segment. Like, you have to count on Jaylen absolutely to win these games.
Who knows? Maybe he's a player. He's in contention for it next year. We almost kind of have like a Giannis moment of where Giannis won it. And then the year after, we were like, can you win it twice?
He goes from 13 to 20 points, 20 to 25 points now. Like, could happen.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe this won't be the only time we ever hear Jaylen Brown's name with most improved. But Dave, you want to mention the guy the Thunder signed to absolutely cheat the system?
Okay. So, for those of you who don't know, the Thunder were in a situation where they have to hit the salary cap floor because they literally have no money spent, basically. They're just completely cheaping out of this situation, which somehow is like, I don't know. I feel like we're just making up numbers. It's not quite as bad as like the NFL with their voidable years bullshit that's going on right now and everything being a salary bonus instead of an actual contract value. But Gabriel Deck has been signed to the Thunder, basically with the weirdest contract I think we've seen to date in the NBA, at which point basically none of it matters. They just signed him this year so they can avoid paying a penalty. But is he someone we should know about? Is he someone we should be like, oh, this could be good? I think, yeah. I think if he comes over, sure. Why not? Like, he's a kid in his middle 20s. He's not a bad player. He's actually been quite good for a couple of years now. And it's just like, is he anything special? Probably not. But could he help them down the line? Yeah, why not? I think it's just worst case scenario. They sign up for the money. We'll never see him. And it's whatever. It's just them cheating the game. Best case scenario, he could come over here, play a couple games, impress people, and actually play out some of that contract in the NBA for the next couple of years. I think that'd be great.
A little known tidbit about him. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but it was the year when Embiid played when they had like the Team USA versus Team World, type of stuff. Like when it's the younger guys, he played on that team with Embiid and Cat. So I'm just saying, he played 3 minutes. So I mean,
counts. But yeah,
there's 3 more minutes than I played in that game.
Yeah, so going through Hoops Hype, they did like a nice little 9 things you should know about him. He played in the Spanish League. He played in the U18 games. He played in the FIBA Cup. Like, he's played in a bunch of different leagues. And he's been fairly successful everywhere he's gone. So I don't think this is a nothing. I think if we go, the old is it something or nothing or everything? I think it's something. I think there's something to it. I kind of like the idea of the Thunder kicking the tires on another player who's like, well, he wasn't ready for the NBA when it was draft time, at age 18, but he looks like a competent player. He seems to be playing well. Well, why not? I mean, they're not trying to win games now anyway, so what's it matter?
I mean, true, they're trying to get as many top 10 picks as they can. So,
Yep.
but moving into the last segment is, what we named the show after. This is going to be the Wizard segment. Basically, for people who don't know, this is how we break it down. We have it that if the Wizards get the number one pick, ignore the car starting in the background if it got picked up.
Totally did.
Basically, yeah, of course it did. Basically, we start off with if the Wizards got the number one pick. After we have that discussion, kind of if they fall into the top 5 but don't actually get the number one pick, who do they take there? And then essentially, if they fall or if they land where they're actually expected to land at 6, who do they take? So at number 1, Dave, we slapping the wall. Are we?
I mean, yeah,
slapping it.
Cade Cunningham's name's right across the back wall right here. You guys all know it. It's every week. It's every day. There's no reason not to take Cade Cunningham number 1 in this draft class. It feels dumb, and I'm not going to waste your time saying it again.
All right. Yeah, I mean that's really it. Is as much as a discussion could be tried to have, we both honestly agreed. Cade Cunningham's the runaway number 1. I think essentially anyone who is picking at 1 should pick Cade. All right, so moving on to if they don't get the number 1 pick, but they kind of land in the 2 through 5. Let's say they just landed 2, for example, like they just miss out. You going with JG4? You're repeating it like last time.
My statement has and always will be JG4 is number 2 in the draft. Now, obviously, the situation with the Wizards is you have Bradley Beal. Can you take another guard when you don't really have the opening and starting lineup for the number 2 overall pick in the class? It does raise some questions, but at the same time, I think it's being realistic. I think the idea is everyone wants Bradley Beal off the team. I think Bradley Beal would give you a lot of value. And I think that they've got a handful of young guys between Thomas Bryant, Denny Avdia, Rui Hachimura, who all are interesting prospects. And you're not winning games with Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook. You're not winning games with Bradley Beal on his own. So is there really a reason to avoid a player with as much upside as Bradley Beal to try to go for a fit and getting someone like an Evan Mobley probably Evan Mobley would be the only other option really at number 2 for me. Just to have him next to or in front of Thomas Bryant, it doesn't make sense to me. I think I go for JG4 and I just roll a 3-guard lineup and I don't worry about it. Like Garrison fucking Matthews is getting minutes right now. Like, no, just take JG4 and be happy that you could have the best scoring duo of the future. Like Bradley Beal is in his prime already, but like JG4 is special.
Yeah. Now, obviously, I'm going to take the stance I kind of took with the Pistons of essentially, I think Mobley could go here, especially because I think Mobley kind of fits a lot what this team needs. Obviously, Thomas Bryant was doing pretty good. Like he was kind of not an insane standout, but like he was a notable player at least. Obviously, went down with the seasoning injury. Hopefully he comes back perfectly fine from it. Mm-hmm. But it just kind of, he almost was like a spotlight within that of like this team doesn't play defense to save their goddamn life.
They almost have no intention to play defense. That's almost part of the game plan. Scotty Brooks.
I mean, true. I mean, with Scotty Brooks, though, it's essentially hey, we're just trying to make it seem like we signed Scotty Brooks because we wanted him here. Totally not because we wanted Durant. Yep, totally not at all.
That may have come out somewhere, People might be able to read through the lines there, guys. Watch out.
Yeah. But I think if they drafted Mobley, I think as well, just Mobley is just upside and potential to be the next great NBA big man. I think is something that would pair really well with them because especially, like Westbrook isn't a terrible defender. Don't get me wrong. He's not like otherworldly and he's not garbage tier. He just he falls in like a comfortable middle. Yeah. And Beal, when he tries, we have seen in the past, he's been a really good defender when he tries.
He just has no reason to.
Yeah. At this point, he's just like, fuck it. I'm just going to try to drop 35 every night and hope to God my team picks up whatever I don't do.
Yep.
And I think with the roster built around that sort of mentality, I think we've seen it doesn't work. Obviously, a team almost like the Timberwolves can kind of pull it off because you have 3 people who can drop essentially 30 by this point. Obviously, one of them is more towards the 20s range, but we have seen them have really good pop-off games.
I agree.
And that scoring potential is terrifying, especially when obviously I believe Beasley's back for the Timberwolves. Thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously now you have 4 people on that team who could drop 20 points. That's basically 80 points with 4 players.
And D'Lo's
But
coming off the bench, by the way, shooting somewhere in the 44, 42, 90 shooting splits.
yeah,
Coming off the bench on high volume. So that's cool.
yeah. And I think the Wizards and Timberwolves kind of try to share that dynamic. And obviously we look at it and it's like, okay, obviously the Wizards have much bigger named talent because obviously Westbrook's one of the most popular players in the NBA. He's a very recognizable name.
Popular is not the term I would use for him. He's incredibly well known.
Yeah, you know what I mean, though.
Lots of people love to hate him.
Well, yeah, but you know what I mean, though. Of
yeah, I know
he's got name value.
Yep. Yes.
People who are casual NBA fans, you won't hear the who.
Exactly.
The people who you'll get a who from when you talk about Westbrook are the people who are just going out of their way to be over hateful, which sometimes he kind of deserves.
Yep.
But essentially, they have more of the name value stars, but it's just essentially looking at it, it's okay, it's those two and then the rest. With the Timberwolves, since they're kind of constructed in a similar way, it's you have Cat. Arguably, if he actually had a good team around him and tried most of the time. Obviously, I don't want to shit on Cat too much. He's been through a lot of shit. I don't want to brag on him
it
too
is
much.
the 1 year anniversary.
Yeah,
which is
so
really bad, but
yeah, we're gonna.
I still think that team sucks though. Don't even care.
Yeah,
but the Timberwolves just suck. The all offense, no defense plan does not work. It's been proven multiple times over. I don't think that the Timberwolves will continue down that line. I think that the Wizards should do the same thing. You need to pivot. They've got 2 stars. They can't win games. Things need to change. Bradley Beal doesn't want to leave town. Russell Westbrook's contract means he probably can't leave town without giving something away to get rid of him. Unless the Knicks really, really want him, in which case I wouldn't put it past Tom Thibodeau to trade for him. I'll be honest. That's something that people are being whatever about. And I'm no, really, it's not as far away as you think. But yeah, I think that they
retirement.
One
last run.
Legs. That man's got no legs left for you, Tom.
Tom don't care.
I probably wouldn't. And Luol will be a great fucking veteran in that locker room.
He already got Rose. He's gonna hit up Jimmy, be like, "Hey, listen, come here."
No, be RJ's mentor. No, it's okay. But yeah, no, I think that I think you go JG4 here. I'm still on the side of JG4. I think Mobley would be great because he has the upside of being the next big man, the next Anthony Davis, next Chris Bosh. But at the same time, if Beal leaves via trade or something, you literally have no one on the team who can score. You have no floor spaces outside of Davis Bertans, who probably should be traded too, because $17 million a year for the next 3 years. Great deal. Probably should go to a team that actually, could use that shooting versus, an overpay to stay on a very bad team. So I do expect him to get moved either this offseason or next. I think the way you get this team back to the right direction, obviously, is fire head coach number 1. That's the easiest move. But number 2, if you're number 2 in the draft, take JG4. He's literally the scoring guard of the future, your wing of the future. You can run multiple guard lineups with him. Doesn't even matter. Just get this kid on the court because he's special. But you don't plan around Bradley Beal. You don't plan around Russell Westbrook. You plan around the young guys in this roster. You talked about Thomas Bryant. We've mentioned Rui. We've mentioned Denny Avdia. That is the future of this team. Not Bradley Beal, not Russell Westbrook. Just draft as though they weren't there.
Yeah. And I do kind of want to pose one thing because obviously we basically kind of have the 1 through 3 normally kind of falling the exact same way.
Yes, sir.
If they fell at 4, do you think there is a chance? And obviously, Suggs probably takes this spot.
Yeah.
But do you think they could be a team that would be you know what, Suggs isn't the guy, but Kuminga is our guy? Do you think they could be a team to take a Kuminga, or if Scotty Barnes goes up higher, if they want to overshoot for Scotty Barnes?
I think Scotty Barnes would be a hell of a reach. Yep, that would unsettle me. I don't think that's a good fit for either Scotty or the Wizards. Kuminga, way better fit. I get it. He's raw and he will take time, but if we're talking about getting the ball out of Russell Westbrook's hands, that's probably, you're not getting more efficient by giving to Kuminga, but the upside is higher. He's a wing. He is bigger, stronger, and he is so young. 100% would love the idea of if they landed at 4, or I'm sorry, if they landed at 5, going with Kuminga over, a Jalen Johnson or Scotty Barnes, probably over a lot of the next best up kind of players on people's boards. Which I guess wouldn't really be a surprise because I think Kuminga is like top 5 by everybody's mind. But we have seen reports of him falling. So I do want to clarify that. No, it still makes sense to go for him there. They're not going to win a whole lot of games with him. It'll be exciting, though.
Yeah, I've also just wanted to throw that because obviously the top 4 is basically secured, and like 5 mostly secured, but a few times someone kind of sneaks in.
Sure.
So kind of wanted to look at it from that perspective.
Yeah.
If they fell at number 6 or even somehow farther behind, who do you think they would try to aim for with that pick?
Okay. Let me put my Wizards cap on, my Wizards GM cap on here and go. If we were aiming for highest upside player at 6, I would love going after Josh Giddey. I think he makes the most sense here. I think that getting another ball handler would be incredible for them. And again, he's kind of going to get some of the rub from the LaMelo Ball situation, coming over from the NBL after having similar size but not similar body types, similar numbers as far as he can score, he can rebound, he can facilitate. He will get you a bit of everything at 6'8", which is a very attractive package. So, are you getting an upgraded Evan Turner? Are you getting LaMelo Ball? Are you getting Russell Westbrook but taller? Like, what are you expecting? Are you getting Cade Cunningham but Australian version? That is kind of like the mystery that we're all still trying to decode. He's got a handful of games still in the season, so it's the only live basketball that I'm still watching. Catch a couple of EuroLeague games here and there, but I think he's probably the most intriguing prospect outside of the top 5 in this draft class because he has that unique combination of size, ball handling, facilitating, and he can score from multiple levels. So, I think he's probably the guy I would go for if I were the Wizards outside of the top 5.
See, now, I looked up a mock draft just so I can kind of see what some people view. And obviously, this was one that obviously this player won a championship, in NCAA.
Okay.
Do you think Davion Mitchell could go to them at 6? I believe I said his first name right. Obviously,
yeah.
I don't really watch college basketball.
No, I got you. Mitchell going at 6. So this one's kind of fun because a lot of people out there who watched the tournament saw his impact on the court and said this kid screams star. He screams like someone who has the athletic package and the defensive locked-inness who could take it to the next level. All he needs to do is work on his shot, build his offensive game up a little bit more, and he could really thrive in the NBA with the spacing that they'll have. The other half of the people out there see him as Patrick Beverley, but less of a bitch. So, that's also got some very attractive qualities. I get you. Is he Donovan Mitchell? Is he Patrick Beverley? Is he somewhere in between? Yeah, I mean, I think the jury's still out. The concerns for me are really around his shot. He had one season, this season, where he's thrived as a three-point shooter. Previous to this point, not really his thing. His free throw percentage is dangerously low as well. So if you look at those trademark benchmarks for what are your keys to success as an NBA shooter, successful free throw percentage screams, we can work with this guy. He has a consistent shot. We just need to get him in motion. We need to get him, comfortable with it from everywhere on the court. The fact that he doesn't have that, and the fact that his good shooting splits were in his final year of college, and it was like an aberration almost. It was like, where did that come from? Was it a benefit of playing around incredibly talented other players? Most likely. Will he be able to sustain that? We don't know. The other thing, his age. He is much older than everyone else. He'll be 23 at the time of the start of the NBA season, I believe. So not a young prospect by any means. We're talking Kuminga, who will be 18 when the draft takes place, and Davion Mitchell, who will be 23 when the season starts. So that's a massive swing in how much ground these guys have to catch up as far as their development. So I don't view him as a top 10 pick, but there are a lot of GMs and scouts who were talking about him as if he would be. I think they see that star potential. They see that ball handler who has intensity, who has defense, and his impact exceeds the box score. he does the little things right on the court. He seems like a great locker room guy, perhaps a leader on that team. So I get the attraction, but I think there's a lot of red flags there the more you look. I don't think he's a bad player. I still think he's probably going to end up getting drafted in the lottery. But I just think that, like, that 5 through 10 range probably would be a reach on my personal board.
Yeah, I think that could be taken as well. Obviously, I'm mostly just going to throw players at you.
Yeah.
Because, like I said for the Pistons segment, that was my first time on here. I mostly kind of go through and look at the players once we get closer to draft time. Because college basketball personally just doesn't interest me. Like, I'll kind of look at like scouting reports, kind of watch through tape and stuff like that once I'm starting to kind of learn through the players.
Yeah.
But a player that kind of stuck out to me, and I almost wonder, because the idea of them possibly wanting a center in this draft coming up, did they possibly take like a Kai Jones? Or there was the one player that you had said, I don't remember what their name is. This player you brought up during the Pistons segment. It was the guy overseas.
Yeah, Sengun.
Yeah. Like, do you think they could be a team that takes Sengun or kind of takes like a Kai Jones?
Okay. So the way I would look at it is if they're at 8, maybe, that's kind of the range where it might make sense for them to do this. I think that they would probably consider Kai Jones over Sengun. Sengun is not known for his defensive upside. Offensively, he's able to score really well. He's doing it against grown men. He's getting great touches, great looks in the post, starting to work on the range a little bit, but not quite there, at a high level. But there's the idea of this will 100% translate to the NBA right away, and he will continue to get better because he's still 18, doing this against guys who are in their 20s and 30s. So, like, there's all the reason to be excited about his future development, but you already have a bucket getter. You have a walking bucket in Thomas Bryant. And like you said earlier, I assume he will come back fully healthy from this injury. I don't think that that's really a concern. His offensive skill set is incredible, and I don't think you would worry about that. I think Kai Jones gives you that unicorn potential. He gives you that big ball handling 7-footer who can learn to rim protect, can learn to work the mid-range, can use his body once he starts to understand how much of a fucking mismatch it is in these situations. Like, there are a lot of times in college basketball where I'm watching him and it feels like he forgets he's a 7-footer, or he's close to 7 feet, I should say. Like, it's just like, dude, that you've got like 7 inches on the sky and you're not just backing him down. He prefers to almost face up sometimes in the mid range. And it's just like, it gives you those little moments of like, I hate you for not doing what I would expect, but at the same time, like, the fact that your tendencies are more guard-like at times intrigues me. Can we make that work at the next level is the big question. Or are you going to be, a raw athletic product that just can't quite put together the pieces to be that, unicorn level talent, And that's the development question that I have for the Wizards is, are they a team who could develop that? Because what I've seen of them so far is them failing to develop their prospects. Denny Avdia this year, they pretty much thought he was interchangeable with Davis Bertans, and that perhaps they're both white European players. So Scotty Brooks was like, basically the same guy. Go stand in the fucking corner and shoot threes. Don't dribble the ball. Don't touch the ball unless Russ passes it to you. Just stand in the corner. And it was just like, okay, this is potentially the worst thing you could do for this kid. Rui Hachimura has had a couple stretches between last season and this season where he looks like he could be a guy who could score, like 18 to 22 a night without a problem. And like, I still think he has that potential, but I don't think they've done much as far as developing his game. I think defensively he's gotten a little bit better knowing how to position himself, but he still gets lost at times. He's not an excellent defender by any means. So Troy Brown Jr., they literally gave up on because around the locker room, he didn't even know his role on the team. Like, that was one of those things where you heard the presser, Russell Westbrook came in and literally went down line one. Do you know what your job is on the court? And no, like, literally Scotty Brooks didn't tell me how I'm supposed to play, what my contribution to the team is. So I have deep concerns when it comes to their player development. So I think that it's a risk taking Kai Jones here. I think that would be a massive risk without change happening elsewhere in the organization. Now, is he the BPA? Maybe. But I think that that wouldn't necessarily succeed if you took him there. It's not like a plug and play. Oh, well, if this team took him, he'll be the same as if he got put on like the Spurs or the Raptors. He'll succeed the same on the Wizards. No, that's not Kai Jones. Like, you need to have the right situation match up to the development for him. Otherwise, I don't think he will succeed at the NBA level. I think he'll be an athletic big who will just fall short when it comes to all the things that could have made him special.
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to kind of pose, let's say they just get the absolute shaft during the draft lottery and they fall somewhere like 13, 14 range. Do you think there is a chance that at that point they may just kind of try to go all in with the Bradley Beal, Westbrook, or the guys who are going to win us games, and they try to draft a role, like sort of like a role-esque player? Not like this guy's just definitely going to be a role player. But, like, do you think they may take a chance on a player like a Jaden Springer?
I mean, I fucking love Jaden Springer, so watch yourself there.
I'm not saying he's a role player. You know what I mean? Trying to take that mentality of, like, filling in the gaps of what we don't have, like, not taking possibly BPA.
Yeah, I mean, by that point, I would expect, Moses Moody to probably be off the board, who I think would be a great wing who could contribute right away. Keon's probably gone. Book Knight may be gone, but I wouldn't draft Book Knight if I were the Wizards anyway. I don't know. That's fucking scary, man. Like, that is absolutely scary to think about. I mean, I think that if they're in that position where they're that far down, I could see Jalen Johnson. I know a lot of people want to put him in the top 10 still. I think his character concerns are going to come out, and he's got a history of character concerns. I think he's a player who's not all in on basketball all the time. If things don't go his way, he's going to be letting and maybe queen on the team. And we've seen that like literally twice already. AAU, same situation. Not same, but like similar. So I think he's someone who might fall because of character concerns, but because of raw talent, like I don't think the Wizards could pass him up if he fell down that far. Corey Kispert, I guarantee, is going to fall. I would not take him unless you already had a deal to move Davis Bertans for another first rounder. Like if they could do like, hey, we can get Kispert at 14 or not 14, at like 12 and trade Bertans for like, 22 or something like that, like, or 24. Say 24 to the Lakers where it stands right now. That wouldn't be a bad deal, maybe, like a sign and trade deal. That would be interesting to see. But I think if they're at the back end of the lottery, if Davion Mitchell is there, sure, I don't have a huge problem with that pick. But just like Franz Wagner would not take. Like there's just a handful of guys who I'm just like,
I was actually gonna bring up Wagner. It's like you trade his brother. It's time to bring in the younger one. It's like you're gonna fix the Wagner problem.
No. We would not do that to them.
Who knows? Maybe the Celtics draft Wagner. We have the Wagner to Wagner connection.
Fucking yikes! Yikes! Okay. But yeah, I think that they're in a situation where like if they fall down that far, I don't know, man. And you might hate me for this. Cooper?
I mean, I'm fine with that.
I mean, I'm talking about one of the most gifted passers in this class. He's undersized.
From my boy Ish.
He's undersized.
Undersized guard teaching undersized.
I'm just saying, like, the kid fucking passes the ball. Like, he's born to pass. He's such a good passer. He can drive. He's got to work on his finishing, clearly, but like, maybe that could be their point guard of the future if they can work in a Russ deal in the next 2 years. Like, again, these are the final, like, he'll be on his final guaranteed year, and then he has a player op for $45 million or something like that the next year, which he probably won't turn down. But, like, at that point, if it's a final year thing, like, hey, that could be the transition year, Next year could be the, like, all right, we can run this guy in tandem. We can run him off ball, whatever. Like, I get it. He's not a great shooting guard right now, but I think everything's there for him to be a great shooter. He was just on a team that didn't give him the spacing to do that because kind of had that Trae Young vibe in college without the shot of just like, there's no one else in this team who can draw the defense's attention the same way. So like the ball hits Cooper's hands and it was just like 5 pairs of eyes are on him now. So I think he's someone who teams wouldn't think about it because of Russ, but I'm like, this team desperately needs their point guard of the future, and he would be so good with his team. Oh, yeah, I'm locking that in now. Actually, yeah, if they hit late lotto, if they get bound, like if they win a couple games here, not unheard of, and they also lose the roll on the fucking dice as far as lottery is concerned, and they get bumped all the way down to like 12. Might consider it.
All right, but we will have to wait and see. That's going to wrap up today's show, everyone. Thank you guys so much for watching. Since this is Monday, I'm going to let you guys kind of know what's coming up for the week. Tuesday, we got Ricky and Dave talking about the NFL. Wednesday, we got Ricky and whoever decides to show up. It may be a mystery guest. Who knows? Thursday, me and Dave will be back talking about NBA. And on Friday, Ricky and Jake are going to be talking about some baseball. So, if you guys would like to join the Discord, exclamation Discord, not exclamation Twitch in the Twitch chat. I don't know why I said that. Exclamation Discord in the Twitch chat. We'll give you a link, or on the YouTube page in the description. It should be there as well. Like to support us on monetary value, patreon.com. You can support as low as $1 or as high as $25. Thank you again, Pat. Want to check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/MVP Sports. That's where Wet Boys is uploaded if you'd like to see who we think is the best player for the day. I think I hit everything.
Sounds good.
All right. That ends it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you guys tomorrow.